Emotional scenes in Yangon as hundreds of political prisoners reunite with their families. They've been freed as part of an amnesty as international pressure mounts on the military. Now, staying in Myanmar for a closer look, Dr. Alan Chong, Associate Professor from the Rajaratnam School of International Studies, joins us live. Dr. Chong, some activists already calling the amnesty a political distraction, a ploy. Fair call?
Yes, I think that's a fair call. But the silver lining is that there is sign that some kind of international pressure is working from the ASEAN direction. And you realize that ASEAN has actually played a very gentle, very slow game, which does not make headlines in the usual way. If there was a crisis like this in Africa, Latin America, or in the Middle East, you realize that the foreign ministries in London, Washington, Paris, Berlin, and so on would be quick to, issue sanctions and so on. But this is, what you see is the ASEAN way of doing things, doing it gently, quietly, issuing symbolic sanctions. So what came out of the April meeting with General Min Aung Hlaing was, I think, a series of symbolic sanctions, which again allows the Myanmar side to actually creatively reinterpret it while climbing down.
And do you think that the softly approach that you described that ASEAN is doing is going to work? Are they going to be able to put more pressure on?
I think this is the only game in town. You have to realize that what you potentially have in Myanmar with the formation of the National Unity Government, whose main aim is to delegitimize the entire military junta, is that if things are not managed carefully, we could end up with a Syria-type situation where a lot of bloodletting would take place without resolution. So I think what is likely to happen is the junta would feel sufficient pressure to concede a little more without actually spelling it out as a surrender. And that way, we will see some kind of resolution to the point where I think they will meet the National Unity Government to extract some concessions. And then little by little, both sides will get into a bargaining game where they will somehow meet in the middle, and then we'll have some kind of coalition government or transitional government to restore normality to Myanmar.
Is there perhaps also a scenario that the international community takes a different take and they choose to ride this wave of more pressure on the army?
There is a limit to that. You have to understand that this military has been what they call socialized over the years, and they've re-socialized their own ranks to put up with international pressure. But what levers there are at the moment, I suppose, come with the fact that the National Unity Government has actually given ASEAN and sympathetic great powers ways to pressure the junta. I'm sure that the years, almost a decade, you can say, of opening up to the world have increased Myanmar's economic interdependence with the rest of the world. And at some point, I think if the current junta depends exclusively on China or Russia, that's not practical, all right? I don't think China and Russia are in a position to replace all the good things, let me put it that way, that have come with constructive economic interdependence with the rest of the world, including ASEAN's markets for the past decade. And, it's these kinds of coincidences of economic interdependence with internal pressure that I think will give ASEAN leverage through its softly approach. Because ASEAN is behaving quite unlike the other important great powers that have stakes in Myanmar. it's willing to say, look, we are going to meet with you. That was the April meeting. And, we have these few points of principle where we expect you to implement to some degree. And, we're not going to make you lose face the way perhaps Western sanctions might. So we're allowing you a chance to build your own ladder to climb down. And, it's also helpful, okay, if you think about the strategy of coincidence, that the National Unity Government has openly said, we do not accept the junta rule as it is because they came to power in a coup d'etat, and this is against any notion of rule of law. And ASEAN has systematically been saying, when it comes to domestic issues, even though they have this coverall logic of non-interference, from time to time they will drop a loud hint. We expect some degree of rule of law as an ASEAN member to be practiced both domestically and in their foreign relations.
All right, that was.
Thanks so much for your perspectives this evening, Dr. Alan Chong from RSIS.